what do you say to the people that are the all lives matter people who almost don't want to give credit or take offense to the concept of Black Lives Matter? And how do you handle talking to a person of the same race as you who may not necessarily think or be as outspoken in support and maybe on the other side of this and think that all of this Black Lives Matter is overblown?
I'm the head coach at Indian Hills Community College. Appreciate you guys having me on as well. The all lives matter thing to me, one of the things that's, I mean, there's a lot of things bothersome about it. I think the first thing that I always hear if somebody says Black Lives Matter, it usually starts with no, all lives matter. I mean, that when I hear white people say that, the word no is usually put right in front of the all lives matter, you know? And it just makes no sense because, as I think Coach Pete said earlier, it is deliberate, especially at this point. It's deliberate if you say that. And if all lives matter, then for sure, then Black Lives Matter. And I think that it's a deliberate way for white people to try to ignore the issue. You know, I think 250, not to take us all back to school here, but I think 250 years ago, the Declaration of Independence said all men were created equal. And that clearly was not the case. I mean, that was written by a slave owner. So I think that word all, it's always been a way to put Black people in a lesser position. It's always been a way for white people, white leaders, white people of power to put Black people in a position where Black people are fighting an uphill battle. So I just think that phrase, all lives matters, I think there's so much wrong with it. I think it's such one of these cop-out ways for white people to basically try to keep some kind of status quo. I don't understand why, when it becomes a civil rights issue or an issue involving race, that all of a sudden the issue is always diminished. You know, not that these issues I'm about to bring up are important, but I mean, we're seeing on TV now sports teams changing their names with Native American names. You know, and I asked somebody the other day, like, how did we get onto this issue? And we got onto the issue because a white cop kneeled on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And not to say there's issues with Native American sports teams and stuff like that, but all of a sudden the issue is off police brutality against Blacks or racial issues in this country. Those things, you know, I'm seeing that they're talking about, you know, China. All of a sudden, if they put Black Lives Matter on the court in the NBA, that, you know, what about the people in China? No doubt, there's issues in China as well. That's another country. Like, let's keep the focus on Black Lives Matter. Let's keep the focus on police brutality against Blacks. Let's keep the focus on things we need to do to make sure that there becomes a more even playing field. I guess the last thought I have, I mean, if you take different issues that we have in this country, cancer awareness is something that's important to me. Breast cancer has hit my family hard. So, I mean, there's little things just subtly that I try to do, and all of a sudden to bring awareness to breast cancer. Nobody ever says all cancer is dangerous or all cancer is bad or all this. It seems to be only with civil rights issues, only with issues involving Black people being mistreated in the United States of America, that the issue is changed. And I think all lives matter, or saying no, all lives matter, is just a blatant way to try to deflect the issue, to try to not acknowledge the status quo, to not acknowledge what's really going on, and honestly, for white people to try to feel better about the situation and try to push it under the rug where change will not happen.
What would you say to the answer to that question to a white male? What is the hard question or the tough question that they are not asking themselves in regards to this topic? And then I would ask you the same thing. What is the tough question that we as Black men or women or people are not asking ourselves? Again, what is the toughest question around this topic in regards to making real change that we're not asking ourselves?
Hello, I'm Erven Davis. I'm director of Dallas Showtime. Been directing since the year 2005. Also have a recruiting service, Dallas Showtime Basketball Report. Has been a certified scouting service since the year 2007. I appreciate you having me on. and appreciate being on here with these colleagues and peers that I'm on here with. I think one of the toughest questions that we have to ask ourselves is sometimes I think we look at a kid, especially a young black kid, and coming from his perspective, and I think you need to ask yourself sometimes, why is that kid so angry? A lot of times, you just kind of, a kid is angry all the time, or you see him as being a problem child or whatever, and you're so ready to just kind of just let them loose and just, turn your back on them in some ways and just say, hey, let's just go and get another one. Let's just go get another one. I mean, this one didn't work. I mean, we can go find another 6'4" black kid anywhere. And I think sometimes you gotta really get to know that kid, know that person, know where that kid's coming from. Ask that kid questions. Ask him why he feels the way he do. And like Mr. Brand said earlier, do more listening sometimes than talking. I mean, you don't know. There's no way you can know. And the only way you can educate yourself about something that you don't know is to ask questions. And I think that's the main thing. And by having this panel on, I'm glad to see, it's not just a group of black coaches or a group of black recruiters. I mean, it's everybody. It's all colors, all races. And I think this is the beginning step. I mean, because we know who we are. I mean, I've been black my whole life, so I don't hate to ask myself what it is to be a black man in today's society. I know how people sometimes look at me. I know how sometimes people think. I know most people would never think that I got 2 master's degrees. I know that. I know that when I walk around, I know what people think of me being a black man. But this right here, I'm thinking, is the beginning of applying change. And one thing about ourselves, I would ask real quick, is just as a black person, I just got to say we got to stop. We got to, as I said, why do we hate ourselves so much? I mean, before we worry about everybody else, we got to treat ourselves a certain way. I mean, the way how we even treat each other in the coaching world. I mean, the hate that's out there trying to, you don't want guys to progress because you want to keep them at a certain level to make you feel at a certain standard. I mean, why use this coach? You don't want to help this coach because right now you're using him to help you with your job instead of trying to help him elevate so y'all can all elevate together. And that happens from everywhere down. I understand from junior high to AAU to high school to college. But that's kind of how I would answer that question, Brian. Appreciate it.
Okay. In your experience communicating with white college coaches at all different levels, what is one thing that white coaches have done or said that make you feel they would not be good mentors for your kids? On the other hand, what is something white coaches have done to make you believe that they would be a good mentor for one of your players?
I think one thing that white coaches I've dealt with in particular that made me feel they wouldn't be a good mentor for my player was I had a player come in. He was going to be a freshman, the same as another kid that was going to be a freshman. They were going to be playing the same position. And the first thing that he mentioned to me is that it was going to be a fair battle, and he didn't see any color. And I think just by him saying that, he established himself as a liar to me because I mean, for him to say that, he saw color right there from the beginning. So, I mean, that right there just already, and it ended up being a bad omen. And, I didn't want the kid to end up going there, but the kid ended up, that was his decision, and he did it anyway. But I knew from right then that wasn't a person I wanted my kid to play for, because for you to mention that on our first encounter with each other, and there was also some other things that he did that I just don't really want to go into depth with. I just don't think he's good. He went on good for my kid. I don't think he's good for young black men. One thing a coach did that I really, really feel like he really was a good coach is when he came in, he really got to know the kid that I had in particular. And I know we said stuff, the ball is going to start bouncing and all that, and I definitely agree with that. It is going to stop bouncing. Even those guys in the NBA, hopefully they're going to live a lot more of their life outside of the NBA. That's not even going to be a third of their life, hopefully. But this coach got it. He knew with this kid in particular, did his research on him and knew that, this kid didn't have a plan B. He needed to make this plan A work. And there were several reasons for that, and I'm not going to go into depth for that, but for him to take that approach and the love and the time that he shared with that kid, and it didn't work. It ended up not working. But if I had a chance to send my kid to that same coach again, I would, because I know he did everything in his power not to give up on that kid, and wasn't really worried about the administration and different people like that saying that, hey, you need to wash your hands of him. He wasn't worried about that, because I think he felt that he had enough self-confidence in himself that whatever somebody else said, it didn't matter. He was going to do whatever he had to do to help that kid, in spite of even some people, maybe even on his own staff, wanted him to give up on the kid. So that's one of that's a couple of my experiences dealing with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of two-parter, so I'm gonna read it real slowly, but make sure you get it all. I said, why do you feel as recently as 2005 that over 32% of the head coaches were black at the 6 major conferences, and now at our Power 5 conferences here in 2020, we're down to a little over 13%. I feel with us having such a huge pool of assistant coaches to choose from, why are we not getting a chance to be head coaches in the quote-unquote good jobs if we are qualified? Do you personally feel that presidents and ADs feel that they're appeasing us due to 59% of the assistants are black at these high major programs? And also, do you feel that we are just pretty much looked at as recruiters or babysitters to roughly around the 80% of major college black scholarship players at these universities? And then the last part of that, and if I have to repeat, I will. More importantly, I want you to tell me, what do you think I could do as an influential grassroots coach in my region to influence change, in your opinion?
I'll try to I'll try to answer it the best I can. As I think, as Alan Branch said earlier, I know Coach Rod Barnes is on here. He probably, he probably would have a better answer for it as far as black coaches being head coaches at the highest level. Obviously, his experience is extreme, but I'll give it a shot. I mean, I kind of looked into some stuff today, and you mentioned 2005, and so I kind of tried to find what I could on the internet as far as the stats and stuff, and it looked to me from what I could find that it looked like there were a larger percentage. That number you gave, that sounds about right. But when I was surprised when coaching in the changes in 2005, of the 34 guys I could see were hired, 26 were white and 8 were black. This passed in 2019, so not counting this year, so a year ago, there were 58 coaching changes, 43 white guys were hired, 15 head coaches were black. So I think regardless, I think there's clearly an issue here. There's clearly black coaches are not getting the same look. They're not getting the same consideration. And that's obviously been a trend throughout the last 15 years. I kind of went back just the last 5 years. In 2016, 35 white guys hired, 19 black guys. In 2017, 32 white coaches, 19 black coaches. 2018, 28 white coaches, 26 black coaches. So that was as close as it looked like it got. And then these last 2 years, it's 43 white coaches, 15 black coaches. In 2020, 16 white coaches, 8 black coaches. So it almost seems like the last 2 years there's been a sharp shift. And I guess I have a tough time believing that maybe the world we're in hasn't influenced that a little bit. I mean, I don't have any kind of, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I would guess that maybe in these last 2 years, there's always been an issue, but it looked to me, and the numbers they lie too much, I don't think, is that in the last 2 years, maybe the combination, we all know, the white presidents that hire the white athletic directors, that now hire search firms that are led by white guys, that are influenced by white agents, and now all of a sudden maybe in this world that's kind of become a little more, all of a sudden the people that, that all of a sudden we've kind of taken a sharp turn back, and all of a sudden the people are more comfortable to ignore trying to give black coaches an opportunity, and maybe those different groups that are led by white coaches are getting, and no doubt, I think the influence of white boosters, I think, is absolutely an issue. And I guess as you look at just the highest level schools, I think you read the number. I can't remember what it is. 13% of high major coaches are black. Yeah. And I was looking, and in just below that, I guess level wise, in the American Conference and the Big East Conference, it seems to be closer to 50-50. And I was trying to think about why, and if you take the Big East, that's a lot of private city schools, Catholic schools, private schools. The Power Five, I mean, these are University of blank and usually followed by a state, and so why in the universities that represent the whole states, why are 13% of head coaches black? And I just think you add up all the white boosters that support, they usually support those biggest schools, and they influence white presidents, and who hire some search firm to get the white AD, and they kind of, they don't have to funnel that money back to the search firm to then get the coach. So I just think I guess the word systemic probably sums that up. But it seems to me that there's been a shift back, at the highest level, in a direction where white coaches clearly have an advantage. So I guess I was looking at all that, and it was, it's pretty obvious. If somebody doesn't think that white coaches have an advantage of getting a head coaching job, I mean, they're incorrect. If somebody doesn't think that white coaches have an advantage of getting a high major head coaching job, they're incorrect. There's built-in issues here that are preventing black coaches from getting the same opportunities. How do we fix it? What can you do as a grassroots coach? What can I do as a junior college coach? I don't have the rock solid answer. I guess the biggest thing that as I was looking at who these schools are hiring, and again, sorry if I'm going on long here, Brian, but I'll try to wrap it up. Like there's a lot of high major black assistant coaches. I think 60%, something along those lines. And at the highest level, in the last 10 years, 7 high major assistants have gotten high major jobs, and 3 of them are from Duke. One's from Kentucky. Mike Hopkins went from Syracuse to Washington. Dave Lato, who had been there, went from Tulsa to DePaul, and Rick Ray went from Clemson to Mississippi State, and then Jeff Capel from Duke, Steve Wojciechowski, Chris Collins, so there's not a lot of high major assistants, regardless of any color, getting straight high major jobs. In 2019, half of the guys that already been they got hired as head coaches had already been a Division I head coach. So I think that black coaches need to, and no doubt there's a huge disadvantage and it's an uphill battle, but I think that the way to become a head coach at the highest level is to get head coaching experience, and obviously a lot of us that are on this panel, junior college coaches, grassroots coaches, we're coaching basketball. And a lot of high major assistants, both white and black, have not been head coaches before. And I do think that, whether it's these search firms or the ADs or the presidents, I think maybe it sure looks to me like they're looking for head coaching experience, because that covers their ass, I think. Like it's, if you hire a guy that's never been a head coach and he bellies up, well, I mean, you kind of went out on a limb. If you hire a guy that's been a head coach before, it's kind of safe. Oh, that didn't work out. Well, how would I know? So I guess I think, when jobs come open, I think assistant coaches, mid-major assistants, high major assistants, I think getting some experience, like I think a lot of us here are head coaches. We know that it's pretty cool, like you get to coach basketball, I don't know if, I haven't been I went to school at Providence and I was a GA there. So that was 11, 12 years ago. I don't know at the highest level if black assistants are considered babysitters and recruiters. I don't know. I think that's unfortunate.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with everything you're saying as far as, the spirits and all that, but I just really think, and I believe totally that just like with the, there's a whole different deal with the black quarterback. I just think people don't give us enough credit for knowing how to lead, how to coach, how to be intelligent. And I think those are the factors that need to be realized by everybody. I mean, it's not just about experience. It's about we're not giving credit for being intelligent individuals that can lead, to be the leaders of programs and be the leaders of teams. And we can be right there to help get the kids. We can work them out, do all that type of stuff. But why we can't lead? 80% of them are black. I mean, why we can't lead those kids? Those are kids. We have kids in our households that are like those kids. And that's just my opinion on that, and I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think that's extremely unfortunate, if true, and I'm not telling you I disagree with that. I think I disagree that that's the case. I do think there's a lot of people in those positions of powers that that probably, I think you're right. I think they do think that. And I don't know how we,
I mean, we just got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, it's uncomfortable questions, uncomfortable situations. It just is what it is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm not sure what the answer is. I do think that, I think that coaching, leading, I agree. Leading, I think it's so rewarding, and I think that black coaches, I guess we all try to find those opportunities. And I do think that one of the issues, one of the things about your question that stood out to me was 2005 to now. One of the crazy things that obviously has changed is assistant coaches make so much money. So like our assistant coaches getting paid so much money to, as you said, just appease it, to be happy in that role.
Well, because that's the deal, you'll give one of our coaches, $450, $500 to do a bit of high major, but then the job that you want to give them will be a head coaching job. That'll be a crummy job. That'll pay him $150,000 to $200,000. You try. I mean, he has a family. I mean, how is he going to take that? So, it's a lot of reasons, I guess. And I guess it can't be answered easily.
Yeah. No, I agree, and because of that, it kind of limits the jobs that somebody making $450,000 would.
Exactly.
Yeah.